Hi everybody, so this is A.R.S.E, a random Stunner explains, and I want to talk about what I call isolation and reality theory. So if we saw the other video on the many worlds theory, you picked up on the fact that I think it's the opposite of what happens in the universe at a quantum level, meaning that in the many worlds theory, every choice that we make or every measurement of a spin of an atom creates two universes. I believe the opposite. That when we measure the spin of an atom, we take two universes and make them in pick one or observe one, or you know, the whole Schrodinger's cat thing doesn't. Okay, the whole like you have to open the box to see whether the cat is alive or dead, and up until then it's both, right? Um, okay, so my contention is that no, like I mean, yes, that's what's going on. Like there's before you open the box, there's two possibilities, and you open the box and there's one reality. That's how the universe works. Up until the point we experience along the arrow of time, the universe, there's all these possibilities, choices or whatever, and we make the choice and we end up with the universe that we have now, or the reality we experience. So yeah, isolation of reality theory is what I call my personal theory. Like I've thought about this a lot. At least uh, the last 10 years, maybe. I've been working on it, you know, and maybe a little bit before that, because the whole speed of light being a constant, that's wrong. I mean, there might be uh, an ultimate speed into at which we observe light, but the speed of light itself isn't a constant. Like it's affected by gravity for one, and okay, black hole emissions are traveling faster than the speed of light, meaning there's particles that are moving, you know, what is called superluminous, faster than the speed of light, attaining that speed. So, yeah, speed of light isn't a constant. Um, the many worlds theory, the most popular physics model right now, is, I think, it's not wrong. It's backwards, which, like I said, in math, that doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means that you're looking at the equation from one end, or starting at one end, when you should be starting at the other end. You know what I'm saying? Like, and anyways, though, so yeah, many will theory is backwards. But that being said, that's what I would term isolation of reality theory, where, like, much like how light works, like I said in the other video, it exists. Every color exists until we look at it and make it one color. Like I said earlier, every possibility exists until we experience one, observe one. I guess observe, because that would mean that there was a test done with cameras, and so you just have to be able to see. What I'm saying? A camera counts as an observer, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So the observer doesn't have to have consciousness or the ability to think. It just has to be able to see to make light collapse. All right. That being said, okay, light collapsing from, I don't want to say quantum state, because that's, people use that word way too much. I mean, there was a pretty good joke about it in one of the MCU movies. Anyway, though, so every light exists, and then it becomes one color, one beam of light, whatever, however you want to see it. So, how? Okay, not how. When does it happen? I guess is a better way to put it. So if you go outside and you look at a star, it's cold out there right now. I'm not going out there, but if you go outside and look at the star, um, that beam of light collapses all the way back to the source across time and space, instantaneously becoming that beam of light or that color, whatever, also. And then, so, you know, quantum entanglement, the speed of uh, dark matter, or dark energy, whatever. I think it's, which I think, pretty much the same thing. It's different, semantics or whatever. Anyway, though, as far as dark matter and dark energy. So dark matter is unexplainable, the unexplained gravitational force we see exhibited on the universe, meaning that the matter or mass that we see, like how the sun creates gravity by existing in that space and time, or that space, doesn't account for what we see in the universe. Like what's holding the universe together, or not holding it together, but like, yeah, well, my personal theory is being held together by something. But what I mean is just like all this extra gravity that can't be accounted for by the mass alone in the universe has to come from somewhere. And what I think it comes from sound, like I said in the last video, when I was talking about why I think the many worlds theory is wrong. So sound creates gravity. Phonons spin, and that spin creates gravity. Okay, photons and phonons don't interact, so that's why I say that dark matter is just the gravity created by sound, because it wouldn't interact with light, it would just exist. We wouldn't be able to see it, And then light in itself not being a constant. Okay. And this is all, I want to tie this all back into my theory at the end, sorry. But so light not being a constant, and that's just what's observed. There's black holes, which collapse light completely, well, everything, I guess, all matter, to the either atomic or subatomic level, meaning it breaks everything down, like, I guess in a way you could look at a black hole as like a recycling agent of the universe. I don't say agent, but entity, I guess, is what I'm looking for. Like a black hole exists to recycle the matter in the universe, and with the emissions going faster than the speed of light, and meaning that they're time traveling, I think it's sending that broken down matter to somewhere in the very distant past. So observable universe, 96 billion years across, and the age of the universe currently is thought to be 26 billion years. We've only been using modern scientific equipment for the last 60 years. So check this out. If you equate 1 year to 1 second, we've been using modern equipment for 1 minute, 60 years. And in that 1 minute, like looking out our window, let's say you look out the window of your house for 1 minute, from that 1 minute of observation, you're going to figure out what happened 825 years ago. That's the, the comparison. If 1 year was 1 second, we wouldn't have, like I said, 1 minute of observation and a very limited amount of space, and trying to figure out where everything was 825 years ago, with the universe being currently thought to be 26 billion years old. So, Big Bang didn't happen. I really don't think it did. Right now, like I said, or in my last video, at the farther regions of space, when we look outwards towards what would be the edge of the universe, we see these large superstructures of super clusters of galaxies moving in unison across billions of light years, maybe even trillions, because they're like our universe, our galaxy is part of the Virgo supercluster, and so like we're part of a large structure that's in itself part of something bigger that seems to be orbiting the center of the galaxy, you know, like, or universe, I mean, sorry, the center of the universe. At the center of our galaxy, there's Sagittarius A. Sagittarius A is, I wrote it down somewhere, sorry. 4.3 million times larger than the sun. So, if there's something at the center, that's at the center of our galaxy, just our one galaxy. At the center of the universe, the size of the black hole would be unimaginable, the size, but that is, like I said, okay. The movement of the galaxy that we've observed so far doesn't necessarily prove that they all coming from the same region of space and moving outward, meaning that if we, you know, over the last 60 years measured, draw a line, right, and be like, okay, we keep following that line all the way back in time, we're going to end up at the Big Bang, you know, because every time we look inwards towards what we think is the center of the universe, it gets older. Like in my lifetime alone, this went from 13 billion years to 26 billion years. And every time we look farther outward, we see more and more of the universe. You know, right now it's at 96 billion years across. You know, so like, and the farther back we look, we find older and older galaxies, and the farther out we look, we find larger and larger structures, and those larger structures are seen to be moving in unison in like a giant orbit that's billions and billions of years long. The stuff that we see when we look toward the center of what we think of the universe, you know, like those galaxies that are so old they shouldn't exist or developed too soon after what was thought to be the Big Bang. They how can I put this? There might be proof that their universe it's not static because it's in an orbit, but like it's always been there. You know what I'm saying? Like, because there is something called the static universe theory, which is, you know, not true, but there is the, what would it be called? The always there universe theory. Like it's just always been there, you know, like, which I think is what is reality. Because like I said, if we look in every direction we look, we see a almost uniformity to the universe, you know, meaning that as of yet we only think that we're looking towards the center of the universe. When we see these old galaxies, we could just be looking farther out, or, you know, whatever, you know. And anyway, though, what I'm saying is we don't know what we don't know. That's what I'm trying to say. And observational science is flawed because it's human beings making the observations, and we experience such a small part of the actual universe that it's almost laughable. You know, like temperature. You have temperatures from the coldest space to the center of stars, but we can only comfortably exist in a 40-degree window. Sound, you know, we can only hear a certain, I mean, there's animals on the planet that can hear lower and higher frequencies than we can. Light, same thing, infrared, ultraviolet. So like, it's proof that there's more out there than we know. You know, like I said, I don't believe in the Big Bang, but if it happened, you know, that means that the actual size of the universe is much larger than the observable size of the universe, to like a lot larger, you know, and it's still expanding. If what I think is true, meaning that the universe has always existed, doesn't mean that it's not expanding. I think when we observe the galaxies moving, we're watching them move in an orbit. Like we haven't been observing the movement of galaxies long enough to determine what direction they're moving, which is in space, almost a ridiculous concept, and how old they are, or not how old they are, but how, you know, like if it is an orbit, how long would it take, and what superstructure they're a part of, and then so on and so forth. Like I said, everything just gets bigger and bigger. So yeah, isolation of reality. Going back to what I was talking about, the reason why I believe it's what actually happens is that's how light works. Like I was saying, we see there's every possible light, and we see one. There's every possible reality, and we experience one. How do black holes support isolation of reality theory? Well, black holes support it by breaking everything they get. Everything that falls into a black hole gets broken down to the subatomic level, or atomic level, more than likely subatomic level. So it's like a big, like I said, recycling center for the universe. And when it emits something, it's setting it so far back in the past that if the Big Bang happened, I think it's sending these particles to the Big Bang, and if the universe has always been static, then it's sending them back in time, because the arrow of time that we experience means there's a forward and backward to time. So, I mean, how far back? Who knows? So I'm Buddhist. I think I brought that up before. So I believe in reincarnation, and I don't think reincarnation is limited to only happening in the future. So like you could be born in the past, the future. You could be born in anything. You could be born, I think, in any other part of the universe. Like I was talking to somebody about this, and he's all like, "Oh, so, how are there more and more people being born? Where are all these souls coming from? And then what happens, like in a moment where like there seems to be more people dying their souls than there is people being born? Like what happens to those extra souls?" Or, that was his argument against Buddhism. So my counter was that we have the whole universe to reincarnate to and from. Like the most interesting thing about physics, or the most poetic thing about physics, is that the atoms that make up your right hand and left hand came from completely different stars that were probably billions of light years apart. Like, I don't want to get too, I don't want to say metaphysical, but love, okay. I think love is real. And I think that when there's an unexplainable love, right? Like you're just like, you look at two people and you're like, how can they be attracted to each other? I think it goes back to the fact that maybe their hearts or contain the same atoms from the same stars, or enough of the same atoms. Because I'm talking about like what makes up matter right now is trillions and billions, or trillions of stars. Maybe quadrillions, or trillions, billions, hundreds of billions of stars that collapse, and that matter is what makes up what we see. What I'm saying? The observable universe. But anyway, though, so those atoms, I think, that make up your heart probably make up the heart of the person that you're just unexplainably attracted to. It happens, trust me. I know. Anyway, so going back to what I was talking about, I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but like I think like life is pretty wild, and so like and it's hard to explain. So I think the universe should be hard to explain too. Like if the Big Bang happened, I like to say that one thing becoming everything can only be rational. There's no rational explanation to the universe. If it always existed though, and these large structures of super clusters of galaxies are just orbiting the center of the universe, which contains a black hole so massive we can't imagine it, then yeah, I think the universe could have some order to it. With black holes breaking everything down, sending it back in time or towards the center of the universe, which, how would that work? Okay, yeah, back in time to some point in the universe where like, you just come out of that time travel, the particle will slow down enough to exist in the observable universe. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because if it's traveling faster than the speed of light, it's, according to physics, time traveling. So, Anyway, though, I don't want to get too far off the track. I'm just going to cut it here. Um, yeah, so isolation reality theory. That's what I call it. So, and I think that's the answer to the many worlds theory, or the conundrum presented by the many worlds theory. So yeah, namaste. Good night. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.